Having pale skin slash cool undertones slash olive undertones plus contour don't exactly always equal out. So if you have trouble finding that perfect contour that doesn't look like makeup on you, it actually looks like a natural shadow, this is going to be such a helpful video. I have all my favorite powder, creams, liquids, and then also some unconventional options if you still feel like you just can't find that perfect shade for you. I love making these kinds of videos because I always say, like, I wasted the money so you don't have to. These are really good picks with a lot of different shades and undertones when you're doing swatches. Also talk a little bit about what contour is. Don't forget to subscribe if you do enjoy these videos and give them a thumbs up so I know to keep making more of them. I'm also always open to your suggestions in the comments below. This was a highly requested one. Also, if you'd like to support my content directly where no one else gets a cut of it, you can give me a super thanks, which is that heart icon near the like button. But let's get started. I'm going to start with the liquid contour products, but before we hop into the products, let's quickly talk about what contour is and what it isn't. So whenever a brand releases a contour, it's kind of their own take on contour shades, but just as a makeup definition, contour is to enhance your bone structure, to create a shadow on your face. Say if you had high cheekbones, you would have a natural shadow under your cheekbones. So contour is to mimic that. So we're going to use contour to enhance our features, or maybe sort of put other features into the background we may not like as much. There's so many, like, I feel like TikTok contour hacks and stuff like that that are so unnecessary, at least in my experience. Once you just know the basics of contouring, that's all you need to know. It's not that complicated or difficult. I do have an application demo and video for contour and highlighting. I will have that linked at the end of the video to watch next. But let's go ahead and hop into my liquid products. And also, contours are more traditionally cool tone because shadows on our face can be cool toned. I'm going to focus mostly on cool options. If you have warmer skin, you might be able to pull off a warmer contour, but I don't really have anything too warm here because personally, I don't want a warm contour. That's usually my problem with bronzers and contours, is that they pull too warm. So none of these are orange or too warm. They're great for cool tones. Let's go. That was weird. That was a weird transition. Let's get started. Let's start with a really good affordable option. This is from Moira Beauty and this is called their Face Sculpt Liquid Contour. This is the shade 100 Fair Light. I do have this brand in some of my drugstores, but if you can't find it locally, you could find it online. So this is a liquid contour. It has a really big doe foot. I did try this in my full face of Moira. I feel like this is such a great in-between contour shade. It doesn't pull super cool toned. It is a liquid, which just to start off with, I would say if you're a beginner, liquids are a really good option because they tend to be more sheer, they look more natural, and they're more forgiving. So this one is really nice. Although right off the bat, it doesn't give a super cool toned vibe. Once you blend it out, I feel like it's neutral enough that it does mimic a shadow quite nicely. I do have more cool tone options than this, but if you feel like maybe contours can pull slightly too gray on you, this might be a good option. Also just looks beautiful on fair skin. That was the Moira Fair Light Contour. Such a good affordable one. Next liquid is this KVD Mod Con Contour. This is the shade Fair Cool. This is another liquid product with a doe foot. I really like these kinds of products. The outside does tend to get a little bit messy, but I forgive it because it's a really nice formula. This one is actually quite similar to the Moira Beauty one. This is actually a warmer tone, which this is kind of a confusing product. I feel like it does act as a contour when you wear it sheerly, but it does for sure have more of like a neutral, I wouldn't say that it's warm tone, but it's leaning there a little bit of being more like a bronzer. But I think because these are liquids, the Moira Beauty one is a little bit more pigmented. This one is a little bit more sheer, but I think they're both really beautiful and they pull very natural on the skin. Next, if you're looking for a very true cool contour, this is one of my favorites. e.l.f. Halo Glow Contour, another affordable option. The shade Fair Light. Don't love this little applicator, but honestly, the shade and formula just makes up for it. This is again another more sheer option. This is a pretty heavily applied swatch. You can sheer it out if you just take a little bit of that. Once you blend it out, it actually is quite sheer. This is beautiful. I think the tone of this is perfection. It definitely has that cool taupey vibe, but it doesn't pull too gray, and it's definitely not as warm as these options. Like, these still work, but if you want more of a true cool option, I think this one is so good, and the formula is just really beautiful and can't beat that price, really. e.l.f. good one there. I accidentally squeezed out so much. Look how thick that swatch is. Too much. So I did say I had some unconventional options in this video, and this is one of them. This is the Say Glowy Super Gel in the bronze option. If you are very fair, or if you just feel like you like very natural looking makeup, using something really sheer like this might be the way to go. Now this is definitely not like a contour shade. I just wanted to mention it because it is such a sheer formula. So this is what I'm blending on the back of my hand here. This just applied lightly is going to give you glow and reflection. I want to reiterate, I know this is not a true contour, but if you just feel like you can't really pull off a contour, like you have super fair skin or you're just very cool toned and maybe you just want a little bit of glow and bronziness, this is really pretty. And as you can see, sheared out on my hand, it gets very sheer, very little pigment. If you're super fair, that's going to be great for you. It's also pretty all over the face, but I just wanted to give it a mention in case you wanted something a little unconventional. Moving on to creams, I have a lot of different sort of undertones for this category. First, I want to start with the Pixi On The Glow Bronze Stick. This is called a bronzer stick, but this shade specifically, this is the Beach Glow shade. I find pulls a little bit rosy, so if you're feeling like you need more of like a red tone color, maybe if you are very like pink toned, this could be a nice contour for you. As you can tell, it is quite different in undertone to the e.l.f. one, but it is nice and sheer. So just a little bit of this in the contour areas I think could work for you. Again, I wanted to provide a lot of different undertone options in case you're like, these don't work for me, I'm not really feeling these. This is a good, more red, rosy option. Another good affordable one as well. Another one of my favorite creams, this one is more pigmented, so I'd say if you're more of a beginner, stick with those more sheer options. This can be sheared out, but I just wanted to mention that. This is the Fenty Amber Contour. I love this. This is another one of those, like, they just nailed the undertone in my opinion. I'm running out of room here. This one is very similar in tone to the e.l.f. contour. So there's the Fenty one. This one actually has a little bit more like gray green in it versus the e.l.f. one, but it is nice and creamy and can be sheared out. Hopefully blending out, you can see it has just a slight more green stone shade. This is more of a true cream formula. It's not too oily though, versus these, which are those more like drying down liquids. This was just gorgeous shade, love it. This one just always looks really natural on me and can't go wrong with it. Honestly, one of my favorites. Obviously these are all my favorites, but I'm talking favorites of favorites here. And then next up, we have some more little unconventional options. We have the Ritual de Fille. This is an Inner Glow cream pigment. Now this is the shade Arrow, so let me warm this up a little bit. This is more of like a very cool tone brown contour. Now this isn't called like a bronzer or contour, it's literally just a cream color, but this one is quite similar to that Pixi one, where if you feel like these pull too like gray on you, this could be a really nice one. I will use this as like a bronzer contour hybrid. Just has a little bit more of that red tone, but I don't find that it pulls warm. It has more of that like rosy vibe, and these are a nice creamy formula. You do have to warm them up a little bit. They can be quite pigmented as well, so this would last you a really long time. Next, another one of my favorites. This is from Danessa Myricks. This is their Vision Cream Contour. This is the shade Light 1, which is a very like green contour, which if you have olive undertones, I think you're gonna find this one really flattering because it has so much of like a green to it. This definitely pulls more. Oh my god, the swatch, that looks so bad. Hold on, it looks like something bad happened to my finger. You know what I'm saying? Okay, that doesn't look any better. This shade, you can tell, has those yellow green undertones to it. This is a nice silky cream, actually quite similar in formula to the Fenty cream, but if you're looking at these, you're like too cool, too rosy, you need something that's like more yellow green. This one I think you're gonna find really nice. I feel like it looks kind of weird in the swatch, but like on the face it looks really nice. I've used this in almost all my Danessa Myricks videos, so if you want something that's like more yellow green, maybe you're more of a warm olive or a true olive, I think this one is such a great option. If you've just tried so many other contour shades and you're like, nothing is looking natural, try this one out. Now we're gonna move along. Actually, before that, I do have one trick to share with you. Ooh, little hint. If you feel like you still are not getting a cool enough shade, or maybe you just want to get something that you could modify what you already have, a blue corrector could be really helpful. This one is from e.l.f., another really affordable one. This you could just mix with any contour or bronzer product and it's going to make it more cool toned. Probably only going to need a little bit. You might have to experiment with how much you need for whatever product you're mixing it with, but this is such a good one to have on hand. You could also buy the green one if you wanted to add some olive undertones into it. I just really love these as a nice shade corrector. Now for powders, I find these almost a little bit more difficult. They tend to run quite warm, but I have some favorites here. First is this Charlotte Tilbury product, which I haven't used this in a while, but I do quite like it. It's the Film Star Bronze and Glow Duo. Now this is a bronzer and sort of highlight duo, which Charlotte Tilbury isn't really my favorite brand. I feel like it's pretty overhyped. This is more of a sheer, very creamy, beautiful powder. Does this pull as a contour? Not necessarily, but it is so light and has that little bit of a rosy tone. This is another good one if you have like a lot of pink in your skin, or if you just feel like you need those red rosy tones. This one is beautiful, like not a true cool contour, but a good option to look into. And then we have this Dior palette, which is their Universal Backstage Contour Palette. So there's 2 highlighters here and 2 contours. I don't really use any other shades besides this one and sometimes this one, but this is the contour shade. I do really like their powder formulas. I think this is a beautiful contour shade. It's a formula that's a bit more sheer, so even if you are a beginner, this powder isn't going to be too pigmented. This is another one that has more of those, like, it's really interesting. It doesn't look like it would have these sort of greenish undertones, but when you start to swatch it, it has that yellowish green vibe that pulls very natural if you have olive skin. It's also nice and light because I really had to build up that swatch. You could also like mix in this shade to make it lighter. You could also dip into this if you want to add a little bit more red to it. I think this is a versatile option. You could also honestly just use this like highlighter shade as a very light bronzer. They're pricey, but I really do think the powders are beautiful. And then I checked to see if this was still available, and I think it's on Amazon. I think it might have slightly different packaging now though. This is the NYX blush in the shade So Taupe. This is like a very old school like YouTube product hack. This is the shade, I just said it, didn't I? So Taupe. This is a very true cool toned powder. It's nice and silky though, and it's honestly like not too pigmented. Definitely a true matte formula. This one is so cool. It's almost leaning on like, has those slightly pink tones in it as well. You can tell that these are a little bit warmer. This one is, again, if you're liking more of those true stone colors, perfect. This one is so cool. It almost pulls a little bit purple on me as well. So it's like right on the edge there. You definitely have to be a little bit careful with it, but it's a great option. And then I really like this one from Hailey's, the Resculpt Smoothing Contour Powder in Light. You get a nice big pan of this product. This one is not one that pulls too cool, but it's the perfect amount of cool neutrality to it. There is the swatch here. Isn't that one beautiful? Like you can tell that this one is definitely looking a little bit more purple now compared to these other ones that we have swatched. This is a good neutral cool option if you're thinking this may pull too cool on you. If you're more of like my skin tone and undertone, I absolutely love this one. I think it looks so beautiful and natural. Definitely a little bit more pigmented, so be careful with it, but banger option from Hailey's. And the one I have on today, and honestly one of my favorites recently, is the Sephora collection Fair to Light Contour Powder. This one looks really, really gray in the container, but I feel like when you put it on your face, like it doesn't really pull. Oh my gosh, this swatch kind of looks crazy. It's so interesting how this swatches versus how it looks on my face. Compared to this NYX one that looks like it has more pink in it, like this is a very neutral, cool stone. Like I don't feel like it verges on gray. It more verges on like a very cool tone taupey brown. And this was built up quite a lot. This is a more sheer formula, which I think makes it very user friendly. Let me show you how I use it. I will link some of my favorite contour brushes as well. The one I use today is from Refer, which is this dome shape. What I like to do is dip it into the powder and then I work it into the lid of the product just to make sure it's evenly distributed. And then I will just go into those contour areas and start to buff it in. And I just really like the sheerness of this powder. Like I feel like it just looks really natural on me and very versatile. It's just super pretty, like looks very intimidating as a shade, but they formulated this nice and sheer so it works easily and it's user friendly. If you have any recommendations for me for contours, I've been wanting to try the West Atelier one for a while. I have tried the Milk Makeup one, just not my favorite. Let me know any other recommendations you have below and I'll be sure to try them out. I'm gonna link my fair skin contouring and highlighting guide on the screen here. If you want to know techniques and how I apply these products, be sure to check this one out next. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you over there. Bye.